everyone. I see some folks are coming into the room right now. I'm going to wait just a moment and let the room fill up before we get started. We'll start in less than a minute. If you're just joining now, we're going to start in just a moment. We've opened the virtual doors to the room and we will start as just a minute. Let a few more people come in. All right, it looks like we are ready to get started. Welcome everyone. My name is Stephanie Niles. I'm the Vice President for Enrollment and Communications here at Ohio Wesleyan University. So happy to be with you this evening and hopefully answer all of your questions about the many different aspects of Ohio Wesleyan. I have our 4 experts here with me this evening to talk through questions you might have, share information about academic life, about student engagement and success, about our Career Connection program and how we help students chart their pathway toward life after graduation. We are all happy to answer your questions, so I do want to encourage your questions. I'm going to start here in just a moment and ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and to say a little bit about their area so that you have a sense of who they are and the areas in which they work. So you'll notice at the bottom of your screen the Q&A. Please use the Q&A function, not the chat function, to share your questions. I have a set of questions that we have been asked in this setting in the past, and I will go to those questions if I don't hear from you all, but we'd really like to hear from you and know what your questions are so we can address them directly. So as our panelists start introducing themselves, please go ahead and start putting your questions in the Q&A function. And you will hear dogs barking in the background. You might hear children in the background in various spots. Mine just barked, so I thought I would put that out there right now. We are all, as probably you all are, working from home or doing this webinar from home, so there may be a few distractions. We've also had a change in panelists this evening due to a family situation that arose for one of our panelists. So I'm going to ask Doug Coyle to introduce himself first.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. Good evening or afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. My name is Doug Coyle. I'm the Associate Dean for Student Success. I'm filling in for Dwayne Todd, our Vice President for Student Engagement and Success. And you'll see in his title, we work in a division that we refer to as Student Engagement and Success. Oftentimes at other schools, it's referred to as Student Affairs, Student Life, the Dean of Students Office. It's similar work that we do to support students outside of the classroom and help them in many different ways that we can talk about this evening. So I'm the Associate Dean for the Student Success part of that division. My specific area includes our residential life department, so that's student housing, our counseling services department, public safety. I'm our liaison with our student health center on campus, and I work with our student conduct and community standards office. So a number of different partners that help students with their everyday life at OWU. And I'm happy to meet with you tonight.
Couldn't unmute myself there for just a second. Thanks so much, Doug. Thanks for joining us. Brad, do you want to jump in?
Sure. My name is Brad Polcini. I'm the Associate Dean for Student Engagement, so a colleague of Doug and Dwayne's. My area specifically oversees the Student Involvement Office to include fraternity sorority life, clubs and orgs, leadership development, intramural sports and club sports, as well as community service and learning and our marching and spirit bands. I'm also responsible for our first year programming, especially our orientation registration processes over the summer, as well as Camp OWU, which is a fall experience that all students go through, and it's our fall orientation program. And then finally, I am the primary advisor to our Wesleyan Council for Student Affairs, which is our student government on campus. The student government at Ohio Wesleyan oversees the student activity fee and makes decisions on the allocation of that activity fee for the campus to support all the programming that we do. So I'm happy to see you all tonight. We'll see you all tonight and ready to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Brad. Megan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Ellis. I am a proud class of 2005 alumna of Ohio Wesleyan, and I'm the executive director of OWU Career Connection. I also wear another hat on campus that complements everything that we're doing in the Delaware Entrepreneurial Center at Ohio Wesleyan as well. We changed up the very traditional model of career services and created Career Connection. The goal was to provide a guided pathway that was unique and personalized for every student that meets them at the moment that they walk on campus. And we first talk about, what are you passionate about? What challenges in the world do you want to tackle? And then we kind of step them through. We have kind of 7 stages that we step them through, where we're talking about building upon those strengths and then learning more about yourself, getting out and learning more about careers. So now you know your passions. What does that even mean for life after Ohio Wesleyan? Then we go into some more of the typical career development, working on your resume, practicing interviews, and then going out and landing in internships, experiences, shadowing, research. And then we also talk about leadership. And so throughout this whole process, we're developing these skills that employers always tell us that they really need in employees. So we're talking about critical thinking, communication, teamwork, and leadership. All of those things your students and all of you will be able to experience through this whole guided pathway. We work really, really closely with our faculty. So we are integrating career into the curriculum. And then we also have great alumni partners who have stepped up and they offer their time, their expertise to network, to help mentor students and advise them. And we're seeing them all the way through. So even after you walk across the stage and get your diploma, you're always a bishop. And so we are working with all of our alumni really, really intentionally in the first 5 years after graduation, because a lot of career transitions can happen. But then we are always there for our alums to help them in their career transitions. So we have some really exciting things going on. I'm so excited to share those with you. We like to think of ourselves as a really dynamic office, not a traditional career office. And we're making a lot of really great things happening. So we're really excited to talk to you tonight.
Thanks so much, Megan. And Andrea.
Yeah, hi, good evening and welcome to this virtual webinar. I'm excited to be here tonight. My name is Andrea Colvin and I am a faculty member. I'm an associate professor of Spanish in the Department of Modern Foreign Languages. So I teach Spanish language courses all the way up to advanced courses in Latin American literature and culture and film. And I'm here tonight, not as a Spanish professor, but as the new interim associate dean for academic performance and advising. I am new to this role and this is my first webinar, so I'm excited to be here in that new role. I'm still learning all that means for me, but I'm excited about the various hats that I get to wear. I'm going to be working with advising, so helping faculty in their role as advisors and to make sure that we guide students through their 4 years, the academic process. I'm also the person that responds to a whole range of student concerns that they might have as they work with professors or advisors and help them come to resolutions for those concerns. And I'm also going to be in charge of the academic part of the summer orientation, which is when students come to campus and, well, maybe come to campus, we hope so, depending on COVID, and sign up for their first set of classes and learn about their academic journey here at Ohio Wesleyan. So those are just a few of the pieces that I'm going to be overseeing. Welcome again, and I'm excited to be here tonight.
Thank you so much. So we have a couple of questions in the Q&A, but please continue to keep those questions coming. There was a question that was answered directly to the person that posed it, but I did want to make a quick comment. It was about financial aid and merit scholarships. If you are an accepted student, hopefully you are advanced in this process. You know that we do offer merit scholarships based on the information that you present to us at the time of admission. There are a few additional awards for which students can apply. This information is thoroughly detailed on our website. And I would suggest if you are a junior or a parent of a junior or even a sophomore, you keep your eye on that website. That information will change each year. And so we will update that for next year by the summer so that you'll have a sense going into the next cycle what that looks like. If you are a senior and haven't yet filed the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, and you believe that you're going to qualify for some need-based funds, and or you want to take out loans, federal loans with low interest rates, I would encourage you to get that information to us as quickly as possible. We will turn around a financial aid package and send that back to you at the time of admission, if we have that in hand, or shortly thereafter. As soon as you get that to us, those will go out multiple times a week. So we're eager to share that important information with you related to financial aid, but it's, again, the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA, that you will, and you can access that on our website or Google that, that title, and you'll find it. So I'm going to go on to the first question here, which is, how did you all manage the fall orientation program with COVID? Brad, do you want to start?
Yeah, we had to change it into what we were initially planning on doing, as with anything. So Camp OWU is traditionally a 3-day off-campus program for most students, where they go to a track. So we call it Camp OWU because you go to either what's called Challenge Camp, where it's an overnight camp about a half hour north of Columbus, where they have high and low ropes courses and cabins and all the amenities you need. It's not really camping, it's more like glamping, where you're on campus at that location, and to do bonding over the challenge elements that are there. We also have a wilderness camp, which is actual camping, where we go into the woods of West Virginia and do some overnight camping there for a couple days, and hiking and rafting and rock climbing and caving. And then we have a service camp that those students stay on campus, but are able to go out and serve the community through different service learning opportunities over those couple days or a few days that we're in Camp OWU. Because of COVID, we had to take that program and change it from a 3-day program that was overnight to just day programs. So we changed the location for wilderness camp. They went down to Hocking Hills, which is a couple hours south of Delaware, instead of going all the way to West Virginia. Service camp was able to stay on campus and do a bigger group campus service project. And then our challenge camp, we set up challenge elements and team elements on campus for them to compete in. We were able to do it as a day program because we have pretty rigorous testing standards for students when they arrive to campus in regards to COVID. All new students received a PCR examination or test when they got to campus in the fall. So the next day when we started orientation, we knew if anybody had tested positive, they weren't able to participate, which is a very, very small number. But because we had just tested everybody, we knew we had results that everybody was safe to be able to participate in that day program. Of course, social distancing was in place, masks were worn at all times, all those CDC guidelines were followed. But that's how we were able to pull off our fall orientation program. I also saw a question in there about dates for summer orientation. So while I'm talking about summer orientation, we'll address that now. We don't have dates yet, and that's purposeful because we don't really know what June or July is going to look like in the world yet. And we don't want to set dates and have to keep changing everything on our families. As you all are also dealing with COVID and what may be a summer still into the pandemic. Dr. Colvin and I are in conversations about how we might run that. Likely we may do virtual advising and then have open house dates in July for folks to come to campus and see campus and talk to people if they want to. But the traditional day-and-a-half program, what we used to do in the past, we're not doing that in that way anymore. It will be whatever we offer will be a day program on campus. And we know that for some families, it's not feasible to travel all the way to Ohio for just a day program. So there will be virtual options available too, where you can meet with people virtually, you can get advised virtually. And then also all students go through a virtual summer orientation experience. We don't like to call it a course because it's interactive and you get to get a lot of information that way. But both parents and families will have access to the summer orientation course, where a lot of the information you need to start at Ohio Wesleyan will be on demand. And we will ask all students to complete that, likely in the month of June, to help us prepare them to get them registered for classes as well too. So.
Very good. Thanks, Brad, for that thorough answer. Question here, Brad or Doug, if you want to jump in on this one. If a student has a dorm room on campus, but their family home is nearby, are they able to split their time between both homes?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. If a student lives within 30 miles of the campus, they're eligible to commute to campus. They don't need to live on campus and eat on campus. But they can certainly choose to live on campus, and many do, so that they can take advantage of that full experience of being a college student. If a student does have a housing contract with us, they have an assigned room, they in a non-pandemic world, they can certainly come and go as often as they want. They're paying the full room and board, but they can certainly go home as often as they want or need to. During the pandemic, we try to limit that as much as possible, obviously, but God willing, in the fall, we'll be back to a normal time. But certainly students who live nearby within a certain distance of the campus could choose to be a commuter if that makes more sense for them.
Thank you for that. Brad, I know you mentioned PCR testing before. There was a question about how are you handling COVID cases when students aren't back on campus? Do you and/or Doug want to speak to that?
Yeah, sure, I can, and if I mess up, Doug can jump into, because we both kind of live in this COVID world of working with our students. So all students are being tested upon arrival, both in the fall and the spring. So as we're arriving back to campus, all of our students, residential and commuter, have gone through a testing protocol. So if a student tests positive, of course, we have isolation space on campus where they can recover, or they're always able to go home for their 10-day window. And then we also are contacting students in conjunction with Delaware Health Department on students that may be in close contact, and helping those students quarantine into place, and or go home if they're close enough to go home for this 14-day quarantine window. We have care coordinators that are assigned to each student that may be in quarantine or isolation. These are faculty and staff that check in with the students daily to see, one, how they're feeling, two, what they may need, three, to make sure that they're keeping up with classes that they need to, or we need help with communicating with faculty. So it's really a concierge type of treatment where we're texting, calling, whatever the preferred mode of method is with the student, to get updates and see how they're doing. Also, if there's issues with food, if they need a refill on something, we can do that. Our dining services knows who's in isolation or quarantine, so food's being delivered to the different locations for students to pick up. We also have students that are hired to help students that may be in quarantine or isolation with laundry, or if they need something picked up from the mailroom, or they may need something picked up from a store that they've ordered. We can have students help with that as well. So it's a process. It's taken us a little bit of time to iron it out, but I think now that we're into the fall semester and into the spring semester, it's pretty much a well-oiled machine at how we work with students that are doing this. Our students are real diligent about following our Bishop Way safety protocols on campus. Everybody walks around campus with their masks. All our classrooms have been set up for social distancing. All our common spaces have been set up with social distancing in mind as well too. Our dining halls have the barriers between seats where people can eat together but still be safe. So it's transforming campus for sure. It looks a little different than it did in fall of 2020 fall 2019. But we are diligent on it, and we were able to get through fall semester successfully with being able to have classes in person and through hybrid and virtually as well too. And then we're just kicking off our spring semester on campus, and we're hopeful we'll be able to get through spring as well. I will say that students have the option to be on campus. They have the option to also be remote. So some of our students are remote and taking their classes remotely from the comfort of their home if they don't feel comfortable being on campus. But the vast majority of our campuses, students are back on campus and learning in person, or a mix of in-person and hybrid while they're on campus. Doug, did I miss anything?
No, I think that was great. I think the important thing is, this pandemic, we hope, is not something we're going to be continuing to deal with in the future. But I think there is a point to be made that we have a team that has worked closely together to help address an issue that impacts the entire community. We've learned an awful lot about things like isolation and quarantine and testing protocol, and we've been responsive in helping students get the care they need while they're also trying to be a student and learn in the classroom, and just being nimble and being able to adjust and respond to challenges that they come up in a very team-based way is something we'll continue to do every year.
Very good. Thanks to both of you. Someone posed if the campus is open for classes. I think that you've heard that. Yes, indeed it is. Students are on campus, they're in class. Some of those classes are being taught in a hybrid setting. Some are being taught remotely, even when students are on classes or on campus. But indeed, there are many classes being taught in the actual classroom. I'm going to shift to a non-COVID question. I know there's lots of COVID-related questions, but Andrea, can you talk about what general education requirements there are for all Ohio Wesleyan students, regardless of their major?
Yeah, absolutely. I would be happy to. So every student, every freshman takes a course that we call UC 160 or the OWU experience. Most students take that course during fall semester of their freshman year. A few take it in the spring. And that is a quarter unit course. So it only meets once a week for 50 minutes. That basically introduces students to the OWU experience, as the title suggests. So what it means to be a student at a liberal arts college, how to take advantage of all the different opportunities that they have, including the OWU connection, for example, introduces them to various resources, academic resources and other resources on our campus. And typically there is also a reading. This past semester, we read a book together and had discussions in class. So that course kind of is designed to set up students for success and to enable them to make the most of their four-year journey here at Ohio Wesleyan. In addition to that, all students are required to take English 105, which is composition. So it introduces students to college level writing. And after that, they take 3 additional, what we call writing-centered courses. So they don't have to be in English. They can be in many different disciplines, but they involve maybe a longer research paper or several papers that go through several drafts and revisions, and students get plenty of feedback. And those courses are designed to really help students leave Ohio Wesleyan with strong written communication skills. All students also have to demonstrate proficiency in a language, in a foreign language. And so they can do that by placing out of it if they take a test and place high enough, or they can do so by passing the second semester foreign language course. So students take a placement test when they arrive, and depending on what level they place in, they may take 1 semester of a language or 2, and of course, if they like it, they can continue. They also take courses in several different areas. These are called distribution requirements, because we want to make sure that students don't just get the depth of knowledge that they receive in their major, but also a breadth of knowledge that's characteristic of the liberal arts experience. And so depending a little bit on the major, but most students take 3 courses in the social sciences. So those include courses such as sociology, history, psychology, things like that. They take 3 natural science courses, 3 humanities courses, and 1 course in the fine arts, which includes things like art, dance, music, and things like that. And I think that covers all the general education requirements.
Thank you for that. There's a couple of questions. I'm gonna read them together, but the basic question is academic support. Could you questions are, if a student has a 504 plan in high school, how's that handled at OWU? There was another one about how do you support students on the autism spectrum, an honor student who has some social and communication challenges. And then there was another question about accommodations for students who are excellent students, don't turn in superior work, but don't test well. So again, if you could just maybe talk in more general about if there are specific aspects of those questions you want to address, but maybe about academic support services in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are really important questions. And I would like to emphasize that we offer many different kinds of support to all students, and that support is free and available to all students. So first of all, I always want to emphasize that professors are really sort of the first stop for students who are struggling or who have questions. All of us really want to see our students do well and succeed, and so we make ourselves available during office hours, before and after class to speak with students, and we want to mentor them and advise them and help them the best that we can. In addition to that, there are many other types of resources that are available on campus. So many of them are housed in what we call the Sagan Academic Resource Center. And so those are all services that are free and available to all students. And they include things like the Academic Skills Center, where students can get help with things like note-taking skills, study skills, time management, all those things that are really important for students to be successful. We also have a writing center where students can get professional as well as peer help tutoring with writing. So if a student is working on a research paper, they can have help at all stages of that process, from coming up with a topic to creative crafting a thesis statement to how to cite sources and every step along the way. We also have a Quantitative Skills Center where students can get help with classes that require more advanced math skills, quantitative skills. And then lastly, and that is a center, that an office that would be important to those who need accommodations. We have the Accessibility Services Office, and the director is Stephanie Rowland, works with all students who need any kind of accommodation or barriers removed so that they can be successful in the classroom. And she's really great at working with faculty and helping us come up with a plan together that will help the student. She's great at having the students communicate to us as faculty members, letting us know what they need, make sure that accommodations are arranged. Students, for example, can take tests or exams in a testing center without distraction. They can have sometimes extra time on assignments, or possibly some level of lenience with deadlines. And that is all worked out with Stephanie and the student and the faculty member to make sure that the student can really be successful in the class wherever they're struggling. I hope that has answered a broad range of those questions. I'm not sure if I overlooked anything.
That's great. Thank you so much. And actually, let me mention here, if you have some specific questions, on March 17th, Wednesday, March 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a session specifically on academic services at Ohio Wesleyan. And Stephanie Rowland, who was just mentioned, Emily Lugg, who's the interim director of our Sagan Academic Support Center, will both be there to talk about the services that we offer. So please feel free to join us there as well. I'm going to turn to a more general question. And Megan, I'm going to start with you from your alumna perspective and the many, many students who have come through your office. I thought you would have a unique perspective on this. What do you think are the characteristics of kids who thrive at Ohio Wesleyan, and conversely, the characteristics of those who struggle? And others can weigh in, but Megan, go ahead, I'll start with you.
Thank you. That is such a great question. When we saw that pop up, I was excited for us to get to that. You know, the really unique thing is that there is not one model of Ohio Wesleyan student. And I think that's really, really important. There's other universities where you could pretty much draw out exactly what, you know, an ex student looks like. But at Ohio Wesleyan, our students are diverse in their interests, in their passions, in even what they do day to day. I would say that our students are curious. That is a big thing. They are eager to learn, and I mean learn beyond just in the classroom. They're eager to experience and try new things. I think that idea that we can really explore is part of the reason that we have the OWU connection. You know, we can bring bring what we're learning from the classroom and outside, and that is really what our students want to do. So very curious. I think our students really work hard. They understand that to achieve great things, you have to try new things, and that you may not be perfect the first time. And that is something that we see as a key kind of life development, that our students are able to have grit and to kind of work through challenges and come out the other end. So somebody who does have that eagerness, the desire to learn, desire to challenge themselves, and is pretty open. So we do have a lot of different discussions going on campus. It's not just a one thought type of environment. So I think those qualities really, really thrive. That's what I would describe as a student who thrives here. And somebody who values relationships. So our faculty members are so unique that, just Andrea had mentioned this, that they truly want our students to thrive and be successful. And that goes for all staff on campus as well. So a student who is able to share when they might need some help, that's going to help benefit them. In addition, we understand that there are some students who are not as ready to open up to that. And so we have great systems in place to help them. I would say maybe for somebody who this might not be the exact right place, you know, that is such a hard question for me to answer, because I think that Ohio Wesleyan has a home for everybody here. You know, we have people who are very, very outgoing. We also have people who want to just kind of blend in a little bit and ride it a little bit, and that's okay. So honestly, it's that curiosity is so important to just kind of what we have going on, but we help bring it out as well. I'd love to hear from my fellow panelists, though. I can share from an alumni perspective too. We love helping other bishops. So this is, once you graduate, I mean, even once you just come on campus, so you can be a first-year student, we want to that kind of pull somebody up. As soon as you meet another Ohio Wesleyan student, you have a bond for life. And I can absolutely say every position I have ever had after graduating was because of an alum who either recommended something or spoke highly and kind of help you get there. So helping other fellow alumni and students is really, really at our core.
Great. Others? Andrea, you want to chime in?
Sure, I'd love to say something about that as well. I completely agree, Megan, with the things that you've mentioned. I think curiosity is something we value so much in our students, and openness and willingness to explore. And so with that, I wanted to just make a comment about the fact that students really are encouraged to explore, and certainly are not expected to have their major necessarily firmly in mind by the time they come here. So if your son or daughter isn't yet sure about what they might want to major in, we actually really love that. We really encourage students to take a year or even a little bit more than a year to explore and to take classes in different disciplines and different areas, because we want them to make an informed decision about whatever major they end up declaring, and to choose something that they have learned that they enjoy and that they're good at and that they're really excited about. And so we can guide them along that path. There are many folks here on campus who can support them in their journey of discovery. But I just wanted to mention that it's really great if students are open-minded and are willing to explore, and it's definitely not a detriment to arrive at Ohio Wesleyan undecided and not 100% sure what you want to major in.
Very good. Thank you. We will go on to the next question because we do have lots of questions coming in, which is terrific. Andrea, maybe you could go with this one. How do you pair a student with an advisor?
Sure. So during the admissions and orientation process, students are asked, I think at multiple times, what their academic interests are. And so we keep those in mind when we pair students with advisors, and we try to have advisors in whatever discipline they express an interest in. Of course, as I just said, some students don't yet know for sure, and sometimes also it changes once they get here. So if a student is paired with an advisor who is outside of their discipline, that person will certainly do their best to advise them along the way and to make sure that they do what they need to do in order to graduate in 4 years. But a student is also free to switch to somebody else if they meet a professor in a class that they really feel like they connect with. For example, they can always request that person to be their advisor. They can ask, and yeah, I think that probably answers that.
That's great. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Can you describe the first year dorm experience and what will students need to bring that isn't included in the dorms? Doug?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. I'll answer the second question first. Every student is different, and many of our residence halls are different. So it's difficult to kind of list things that they may need to bring with them. It kind of depends on what they need in terms of technology and resources and what they're planning to study and all that. For incoming students, once they go through our process of applying for on-campus housing and working through that, it's best to make sure that you're reading the information about the residence hall that a student will be living in, and reach out to the residential life staff with those types of questions, given the residence hall, what's included and what should I be bringing and that sort of thing. You'll get some general information about what we recommend, but it will depend on what the student needs and what the residence hall community has. We're excited about some of the renovation and construction going on our campus right now for a lot of reasons. It's great that we're going to have some great new and renovated facilities for students, but it gives us a more kind of progressive approach to our on-campus experience. And one of those great examples is Smith Hall, which is our largest residence hall, and it's been going through a 2-year renovation beginning this coming fall. It will be fully renovated and will be the home to most of our first-year students who decide to live on campus. There are some videos I know online that we have about Smith Hall and the renovation. We're really excited about what's going on there. It is also the home to our 24/7 dining operation, and so it's a convenient place for students to gather and learn together. And it gives us an opportunity to do more focused programming. We always have some programming that focuses on first-year students and upper class students, but to have an opportunity to use those new facilities that have some classroom space in them and spaces where students can cook together and fitness center and opportunities to bring faculty in for programs. It gives us an opportunity to really focus on that first year experience, helping students learn the resources on campus, helping them learn their way around in Delaware, some basic skills like how to do laundry. So a lot of that programming that helps students outside of the classroom, but also working with faculty to do some co-curricular programming as well. So we're excited. We're rebooting our residential curriculum now with many of our colleagues on campus, and we're excited to be able to introduce first-year students in the fall to the Smith Hall experience.
Great. And Doug, you mentioned food, the all-important question. Can you, Brad, talk about food service in general, specifically managing food allergies? How does that work?
Yeah, I did see that question there. So we work closely with AVI as our food provider on campus, and they have a number of different venues. We have a variety of different options for students, so they can choose what works best for them. Students who live on campus are required to have a meal plan. That's important to know. But I work pretty closely with our food service management team as students come to us with different dietary needs. It could be an allergy, it could be something else that they're working through. And even today, I was talking with the director about a student that he had been meeting with about concerns. So we will work with them to tailor needs as they come to our attention. So for something like a food allergy, we typically have enough options that students can choose what works best for them. But we're happy to work with students directly when they bring those to our attention. So it's important to know when you get to campus, you understand what the options are, or as you're an incoming student and you're looking at what's available. If you have questions that you can reach out and we'll work with students on those needs. Brad, am I leaving anything out?
No, I think you covered it. I will just say it's good. I enjoy eating on campus, maybe sometimes too much, but so yes, they're not there's a lot of different options on campus, and the chefs will work directly with students to make sure they're meeting dietary needs and restrictions that they may have. They're really good at working one-on-one with students in that regard.
Yeah.
Thank you. Doug, I know you mentioned Smith Hall. Let me make sure this question is clarified. The question was, will all freshmen this fall be assigned to live in the newly built dorms, or will some be in the older dorms?
Yeah, it's our plan to have first-year students in Smith. For that reason, it gives us the opportunity to involve them in those first-year programs. So I realize to some extent it can depend on numbers for us, but it can also depend on individual needs. If a student needs a specific accommodation, and then we work closely with, I know we've talked about Stephanie Rowland here, who coordinates accommodations for students. There can be exceptions to that, but it's our plan and our hope to have students living in Smith as the first year community, and we would want them to be able to take advantage of that new facility, newly renovated.
Great, thanks, Doug. And this is in your wheelhouse as well, Doug. How does the university support the mental health of its students? As you can imagine, it's paramount for those entering after a high school year, which has potentially put them at risk.
Yeah, I saw that question and I was excited about it because those of us who work in higher education know the trends around mental health, and we see an increased demand on mental health resources every year, year over year. And a lot of that is because of the reduced stigma around it and students being more willing to work with the resources that are available to them. So we have a counseling center on campus with licensed mental health professionals. That's a department that reports to me. I work closely with them. We also have a team of colleagues from around the campus that work closely with students to support their mental health needs. It could be, accessibility services. The residential life staff is trained in areas of mental health and suicide prevention. Our public safety staff, obviously, that we have a health center on campus that also provides telehealth options for students who need more intensive care, and we'll refer to community resources when necessary as well. We have those relationships. So we have a network of staff that work very closely together to make sure that we're supporting students in every way we can. We also have recently become members of the JED campus program, which the JED Foundation is a national nonprofit organization that focuses on mental health and suicide prevention. We're going through that process right now and working with their advisors and making sure that we're using best practices, we're taking advantage of resources, and we're supporting students in every way that we can. So I'm excited about the team that we have to support students who need those resources, and we would want to be able to connect students with those resources when they need them. So we talk more about that during orientation and as students, are first on campus. So I'm happy to take other questions as well and talk more about that if I can provide any additional information.
Doug, maybe this is the time, since your email address is not listed here. Do you want to share that with folks? And then maybe I'll ask you again at the end.
Yeah, my email address and my name is Doug Coyle. So it's DM Coyle. So it's DMKOYLE at OWU.edu. And as I said, our counseling services department reports to me, and they support students in many different ways, individually in group sessions and a lot of creative programming as well. But hopefully for students that need those resources, we can connect them with them.
Great, thank you. Megan, has COVID affected the Career Connection Center? What went well and what hasn't gone so well?
That's a great question. We are really excited that we were able to offer in-person appointments and one-on-one coaching sessions, and then also virtual appointments. And so we actually saw our appointment numbers go up. We talked to a lot of our peers in a lot of career centers. Their appointments either went way down or went just kind of static. We have been able to see more students, and part of that is because we are virtual, or because we're able to have virtual appointments, we're able to be a little bit more flexible with how we can meet with students. We also know that students are having to adjust to virtual internships, so we've had to change some of our programming. We've been able to bring in a lot of our alums through virtual environments. So students are still going through the process. They're still meeting with alums. They're still having those one-on-one conversations. They're still gathering as groups and building community, but in a virtual space, and community around some shared interest in their futures. So we have had good success with our appointments, with our interactions. During, I would say, March to about July, internships were put on hold in a lot of places. A lot of other opportunities, though, were shifted to virtual opportunities. So we've actually been able to create some new partnerships that opened new doors. So, for example, there is a local organization called Rev1 Ventures in Columbus, and it is an entrepreneurial center. They started working with startups all around Central Ohio and built out an internship program. Our students are able to take part in this, and so they were able to take on interns, do all of their work virtually. They were able to get paid. In addition, they went through several weeks of curriculum about working in startups and how to interact on a professional level. And now from those students who took part in that, I know that 3 were already offered new internships, 4 were offered full-time positions. So there's some good and more challenging parts associated with COVID. We have talked to our students about how can you make the most of this experience? And so we're talking to them about, you are learning skills that will last you throughout your whole life. And so we're giving them words to articulate, being able to adjust and adapt and can roll with things if they have to. So there's been challenges in that some employers had to put some programs on pause. However, right now we're in a really good spot where we're continuing to work with students. Employers are figuring out that they can adjust to virtual, and they are eager to work with our students. We were able to adjust our career fairs to virtual and had great success there. We are seeing a slight uptick in our students going into graduate school. So that is one outcome that we saw in 2020 graduates. We're interested to see if that is, if it remains the same for 2021, but just slight difference. So it might just be that that's where more students went. But mostly we've been happy with what we've been able to do.
Great, thanks, Megan. Andre, I'll start with you, but others can jump in on this question. What does your typical schedule look like day by day? And also for first-year students, are there mandatory classes that they have to take?
Okay, yeah, great. So I think I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but many students in their first semester will take a certain classes that are sort of not necessarily predetermined, but that many students have in common. So for example, a typical fall semester schedule might look like this. A student will take UC 160, which is the OWU experience, that quarter unit course that I mentioned earlier. They may take English 105, likely a foreign language. And then we always encourage them to take one course in an area that they may be interested in exploring as their possible major, something that they find interesting. And then maybe one other class that counts towards one of the distributions. So maybe a course in the humanities or a science course or an art course or something like that. In terms of what the schedule looks like, it's obviously quite different from a typical day in high school. So our classes are typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 50 minutes, or they meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays on a slightly longer time period. And we encourage students to build a schedule that has them attend classes 5 days a week, not just Tuesdays and Thursdays, not just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because we find that that really helps with time management. Sometimes it seems like a great idea to only have class on 2 or 3 days a week, but students don't always end up using that time extremely productively when they have an entire day off. So, so students will be in class a lot less than they might be used to from being in high school. But it's important to mention too that for each hour that students spend in class learning with their classmates and the professor, they are expected to spend an additional approximately 2 hours outside of class preparing, studying, working on assignments, working on projects, writing papers, etc. So there's a lot more independent work that is involved and that students need to be aware of.
Very good. Anyone else want to jump in on that question from a different perspective, or should I go on? All right, I will go on. Sorry, I'm looking through the questions here. When young adults are scheduled to get their vaccination, will Ohio Wesleyan facilitate this at the campus, or have any plans been made to this effect? Doug or Brad, are you able to jump in on that, Doug?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot for us to learn between now and then in terms of, you know, what the expectation would be for our students when vaccines are widely available. I do know, and we work closely with an organization, it's Ohio Health, and they manage our student health center, and they have committed to helping us with our students when vaccines are available, if that's something that needs to be done. So a lot of that's going to depend on the timing of when those are available and, you know, in relation to our academic year, but they have been a good partner for us in terms of making that available. We also, Brad and I are in pretty regular contact with the Delaware County health officials. We work closely with them as well on their plan. So we're, at this point, we're waiting for guidance from federal and state officials on vaccination plans. But when those are available, we'll certainly communicate those out with parents and students.
Very good, Doug. Andrea, can dual credit and or AP courses substitute for some of the English composition courses at OWU?
Yeah, absolutely. Students with, oh, I should know this. With AP credit or IB credit or a certain score on the ACT or SAT can place out of or can be exempt from having to take English 105. Not so for the writing requirements, the 3 additional writing intensive courses, but for English 105, yes. And I apologize that I don't know out of the top of my head what the AP score is that we require. But
it's a 4 or 5 for the
it's
AP.
a 4 or 5. Yes, I believe so. Thank you.
Very good. Andrea, can you speak to the honors program? What differentiates the honors experience for students who participate?
Yeah, absolutely. So students who are admitted to the honors program are not required to pursue graduation with honors, but are certainly encouraged to do so. And as honors students, they have a number of opportunities available to them that are really quite remarkable, I think, and that really can define their experience as students. So for example, they can take honors tutorials as freshmen, which are very, very small classes, maybe 4, 5, or 6 students who meet with a professor, you know, an expert in that area, to really explore in depth an area that professor is passionate about and that the students get to learn about and explore alongside with that faculty member. They can also take a number of honors courses. Some of those are courses that other students take as well, and as an honors student, they might do some additional work. Some of them are just for honors students, and so they're really opportunities to explore a certain topic more in depth, or to really hone their analytical skills or their research skills. And honors students also have the opportunity to complete a project, an independent project, That can be a creative project, it can be a research project. There is some kind of written component that is usually part of that, and students get to present that in front of a committee that evaluates them. And as a faculty member, I've been invited by students to be part of those committees, and it's always really fascinating to see what students have worked on and to hear them speak very expertly about the research that they conducted and what they have found. It's always really a joy to be part of that and to learn sometimes from areas that are very different from what I'm used to. So it's a lot of fun, and the students, I think, have really an amazing chance to grow, to be mentored by different faculty members, and to leave here having completed a project that they can be very proud of. So it's a great opportunity that I highly recommend to students that are accepted into the program.
That's great. Thank you. And Doug, if a student wants to live in an honors dorm, what are their options?
When students are admitted, and they'll be getting information about the residence hall options, that's one that's available, and they can indicate that on their housing application, and we'd be happy to work with them if that's the choice that they're interested in.
If Doug, if a student came in as a transfer student, not as a first year, would they be assigned likely to Smith or to another residence hall?
Yeah, and it would depend on where they're coming in, and if if they're coming in as a kind of a designated first year student. In most cases, they're considered to be an upper class student, and that they would have other options available to them as well. It's important to know we have many different options on campus. A lot of our students choose to live in one of the Greek houses, or we have small living units that are very popular on campus and other houses. So, depending on what a student is interested in, what kind of a learning and living environment appeals to them, they'll have other options. But by and large, a transfer student is typically considered to be an upper class student and would typically be assigned as an upper class student. I suppose there could be exceptions to that depending on what time of the year they're coming in.
Very good. And Andrea, can you join the honors program after the freshman year?
That is a great question, and I'm actually not sure about the answer, Stephanie. I don't know if you may be able to speak to that.
Yeah, no, I believe the answer is yes. You have to maintain a certain GPA at Ohio Wesleyan in order to participate in the program. But I believe you can reach out to the honors program directors after your first semester or potentially even first year and determine what the process is for gaining entrance through direct contact. But they'll look for you to maintain a certain GPA. I'm not sure of that off the top of my head, but that's what they'll look for after your first semester or year at Ohio Wesleyan. I'm looking through the questions to see what we can answer quickly. Let's see. This is a one that's it's maybe not a quick answer, but we'll make it our last question that we will take in this way. And Andrea or Megan, I know Megan, you have a lot of experience working with students on this. Maybe one of you could talk about travel learning programs and learning abroad opportunities.
I'll go first and then I'll throw it over to Andrea. So we have partnerships with several different programs all across the world, including some domestic programs as well. So first we'll talk about the more traditional study abroad, which is more traditionally a semester-long experience. We do, as I mentioned, have partnerships in several areas, including Spain, and Andrea, you can jump in here too, but all across the world. But then also we have students who they come to us and say, I really am passionate about this area in this culture, and we can help them find programs. So we can really make this as unique and personalized as possible. In addition, we have travel learning courses where the students are learning together in a classroom. And a part of that then is to travel someplace to put what they have just learned into practice. So we have gone all over the world again. It's a really amazing experience where students bond together because they're traveling together, they're experiencing all of these different environments all together. We have some programs or some travel learning courses where you don't have to be a major in that class. You can just go and experience it. So I believe there was a chemistry class that went to study art in Italy. I'm kind of looking to my colleagues. Yes, I'm seeing the nods. That's great. And then we also have domestic programs. So we have a program in New York called the New York Arts Program, where students go, they live in New York, they have an internship while they're there. They're also taking some classes. It's an amazing experience. A very similar program in Philadelphia, which I actually went to, so I'm a little biased on that program. But again, you go, you take classes, you are also then working in the city, and you have support in both programs to find those internships. Another really important element is that our team works really closely with all of the travel learning teams and staff to help our students then come back and be able to articulate what they learned and how their experiences abroad or traveling domestically impacts them and makes them a better employee or a more well-rounded person. So we don't just stop at travel. We really take it that next step.
I know we're just about out of time. Stephanie, do I have a moment to chime in?
Brad
Okay,
and
great.
I know you had a personal experience with a travel learning course. I don't know if you, or an experience, I don't know if you want to mention that as well. But yes,
Yeah.
we'll end on this note.
Absolutely. This is a question that I get very excited about because, well, I love to travel and I've had opportunities to travel with students since arriving at Ohio Wesleyan in many different capacities. And I think it's one of the most wonderful aspects of my job. So for example, I've directed our study abroad program in Spain. So I got a chance to travel with students many times on cultural excursions through Spain. Including with parents on the November excursion. I've been part of a travel learning course that was co-taught by me and my colleague in economics, Professor Peter, on Mexican migration. We went to students, we took students to Mexico after studying about migration and why people from Mexico decide to leave and the impact that has on their families that they leave behind. And most recently, I took 2 students on a theory to practice grant to Buenos Aires, Argentina, for 10 days. The 3 of us went, and we had been studying the topic of memory of the dictatorships that had happened in Argentina in the 1970s, and we went and explored what that looks like in today's memory culture in Argentina. And so these students that I've traveled with have become friends. They're students that I'm still in touch with, or individuals that I'm still in touch with. Many of them have graduated now. It's an amazing opportunity for students to learn, I think, from faculty members in such a one-on-one, intimate experience, really learning from somebody's expertise and applying what they're learning in the classroom to the real world. So I hope that your son or daughter will take advantage of that opportunity if they come here. Thanks for that question.
Thank you. Brad, do you want to have the last word here?
Yeah, I will just add that it's really open to anybody too. So my travel learning experience was with 3 other first-generation college students and a faculty member and myself who also are first-generation college graduates. And 4 of the 5 of us in our group had never traveled outside the country before. So we worked with students on writing the grant and editing the grant and getting grant writing skills and honing in how to, make a case in point to be able to get the funding to be able to go abroad. And it was an expensive trip, and it was completely paid by the connection experience because of the grant we were able to receive. And we spent 9 days in Denmark, in Copenhagen, studying social mobility, especially having conversations around what does it mean to be first generation college student in another country as well too. Part of that trip, it was amazing, as we met with the very first officially established first generation college club at the University of Copenhagen and in the country as part of that experience. And it was nice to see, I don't know if it was nice, but it was reaffirming to see that some of the challenges and things that we see as being first generation college students transcends culture, but also it allowed us to come together in a celebration of being the first in our families together to have these conversations, to be able to really look at social mobility in this way. There's a cultural immersion part of it as well too, where we were able to explore. We made our students navigate the city using a map because it was a foreign city to them. So they were learning some city navigation skills and not just listening to their Google Maps telling them where to go as we were walking around. And it was a bonding experience too. Like, as I think as Dr. Colvin said, like, I'm still in contact with those 3 students weekly. I know exactly what's going on in their lives. One is already graduate, 2 are close to graduating, and I'll be a crying mess when they walk across the stage because of the bonds that you make on these trips can be special for the faculty and staff and the students that go on it, because it is an intense kind of immersion experience in a short amount of time, but it also allows you to really connect with students in a different way that you wouldn't necessarily get to do on campus.
Thank you very much, Brad. And thanks so much to our panelists for being here this evening and providing so much helpful information to our participants. If we did not get to your question, I apologize. We've just run out of time. We tried to answer a number of questions in written format as well, but if we couldn't get to your question, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the folks that you see here. Again, Doug Coyle's email address was dmkoyle@owu.edu. I know, though, Dwayne Todd, whose email address is also here, would be happy to hear from you. And please also feel free to connect with your admission counselor who can get the answer to your question or point you in the right direction to the person who can help with your question. There also, as I mentioned earlier, there is a specific session on academic support at Ohio Wesleyan coming up on March 17th. And there are other sessions that we've announced throughout the months of March and April that you may find beneficial depending on your questions. Again, thanks so much for participating. Let us know how we can help further and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.